DeSanto Propane is 4 generations strong as a trustworthy family-owned business with unmatched customer service. Go online at DeSantoPropane.com for more info or call toll-free at 1-800-752-4574. Since 1937, the difference has been DeSanto Propane.
All right, everybody, welcome into Concrete Jungle, New York baseball podcast here on FingerLakes1.com. Paul Russo and Kyle Evans here with you. Officially out of the All-Star break. The Mets and the Yankees both with a series underneath their belts here as we are officially through the midway point of July. All right, Kyle, we're going to kind of get into things here, kind of, I guess, in quickish order. I just want to touch on I don't even know what to really kind of call it from the weekend here for the Yankees. Dropped 2 of 3 to the Dodgers. Saturday postponed, doubleheader yesterday on Sunday. They split that. Really, I think the main thing I want to take away from the games this weekend overall, I think finally starting to see some, I don't want to say if cracks is the right word, but like a lot more noise from people about this team when they face the top competition in the league, right? And I did find it interesting that Jazz, excuse me, also kind of talked a little bit about um, performing better in situations and stuff like that. And again, those same people talking about stepping up when the challenge is bigger, like we this past weekend for the Yankees, right, at playing the Dodgers. Um, Same voices were like, well, the players are taking accountability. How come the front office and Boone won't? So pretty interesting in the case of obviously the Yankees for sure here. The main takeaway to me anyway from the weekend playing wise is maybe nothing to do with playing at all when it comes down to it.
Yeah, right now we're hearing a lot about the Yankees offense, the way they're scoring runs and how their lineup looks. And obviously Brian Cashman's, getting a lot of the blame here and he should. But at the same time, again, no one thought Giancarlo Stanton and Aaron Judge would both be down. And on top of that, guys are still underperforming. Cody Bellinger for the last month and a half has not been good. Um, they've been shuffling around positions as we talked about. There's no consistency. Ben Rice has been one of their lone bright spots offensively. Um, and I mean, their catching has been horrific. I don't think anyone could have predicted as bad as Austin Wells has been. And to me, right now, it just kind of seems like, they're only a game and a half out. They just kind of have to stay above water. This isn't the team, in my opinion, that we're going to see in October. There's going to be definitely some moves at the trade deadline. If Aaron Judge does come back, that's obviously a major difference than what they have now, even with like the whole protection stuff in the lineup and, guys getting better pitches to hit. Like just his presence alone changes the whole outlook. And, even if we don't see Stanton again, I still think the team just looks different in October than it will now. And that's why I'm kind of not like, the more I think about it, I'm not going to jump on them too much. I want to see what Brian Cashman does 2 weeks from today at the trade deadline and then kind of judge from there. But they have a lot of moves to make, that's for sure.
Yeah, and you brought up the moves. We're going to be circling back to that today. It's going to be kind of, I think, our main talking point here on Concrete Jungle for uh, both teams here because over the weekend, stuff kind of came out and very intriguing. So we'll jump over here to the Mets for their weekend. They won a series. Look at the Mets go. And by the way, not that it was, especially in the case of yesterday on Sunday, totally the youth, but Thursday and yesterday on Sunday because they had the off day on Friday. the young guys were the ones who really kind of stepped up for the most part. I know yesterday, um, funnily enough, because we're going to be talking about him anyway here in a few minutes more in depth in this sense, but like, Lindor, I know stepped up and so did Torrens, but like Noel McLean had his best start of probably his career in all technicality yesterday, right? You go back to Thursday, it was Christian Scott who looked, again, could make a case it was his best start of his career on Thursday as well. Alvarez, name we haven't talked about a ton on here in the good sense, right? Had a big game on Thursday as well. So for the Mets, I think it's one of those because we talked about last week, right, Kyle, about how like this stretch for them out of the All-Star break is very, very tough. And it's a team that, for all purposes, is essentially waving the white flag on the season, right? And, I think it's a good little, at least boost in the arm, right? You beat the Phillies in a series. You go into the series now with Milwaukee with, frankly, a little bit of momentum, all things considered, right? Is it not to give too much away for obviously what we're fully going to be talking about here in a couple of minutes? Is it maybe what you want? Probably a bit of a double-edged sword situation, but like I said, we'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, I mean, just I was really impressed seeing what the young guys did against obviously a very good Philly team coming out of the All-Star break.
Yeah, I think we're gonna get into the trade stuff, but I think regardless of even if they have another good series against the Brewers and they start, going on a streak, you still can't change your mindset. I think selling is what they're going to do, and I think that's what they should do. And I think it is encouraging, though, that the guys that, did get in that series win over the weekend, like you mentioned, are the young guys that we're going to see a lot of even post trade deadline. And guys, of course, that are going to be here for the long haul, most of them, and they're not traded. But um, yeah, this team is kind of just, you kind of just watch the young guys play and I guess get excited for the future because I think they're going to trade off a lot of pieces.
Yeah, well, like I said, we're obviously we'll get to here in a couple of minutes, just because of, frankly, the way the weekend was, a lot of news coming out or rumors, whatever you want to call it here for both teams. So, yeah, let's jump into it. We'll stay on the Mets to start this, right, Kyle? Because I think this is like we mentioned, right? They kind of said last week, kind of initially, right, was the first kind of rumblings, and we already had obviously a first move for them going back a couple weeks ago, right? Peterson goes to Chicago, but over the course of the All-Star break and stuff like that, the first kind of trickle portion of it, the first crumb, if you will, was the young guys will be untouchable. Obviously, I think as is the case of anything, there's always a price for something. But for right in the case of what we're going for here, the young guys are untouchable. We've talked about that for weeks now, right? About how if you're the Mets, this is probably the right time to just start giving the young guys the run to go ahead and do that. All-Star break happens. We talked a little bit about it, obviously last week because it was a Tuesday podcast for us last week, the way everything kind of broke out. Juan Soto talked about the stuff, obviously getting gassed and everything like that. And then it gets built up, right? Like, okay, Juan Soto also untouchable, which not surprising, right? I don't know any smart GM would take on that contract, all things considered, right? Then you get the full brunt of it, though, involving Francisco Lindor, that the Mets will listen to offers on Lindor. And I can't say I'm maybe necessarily surprised in the technical sense of it, right? After talking about the young guys and everything like that, does Lindor fit that future plan? Technically, no. I think what I am surprised about is just more or less, I don't want to classify it as backtracking or anything like that, but it's very clear that Lindor, to me anyway, with what got leaked and talked about and reported, there's very clearly a disconnect between Lindor and the organization as a whole, to me. I could be wrong, obviously. I probably am reading a little bit too deep. But like if you're Lindor, the caliber player that you are, I would probably be a little bit caught off guard maybe if I got was reading or whatever you want to call it, and seeing my name in the rumor mill at this point. So I don't know. And I think there are going to be teams out there that obviously will call for his services. I don't know what the asking price could be. I know we'll get to the Yankees obviously in a second, but you look at a team like the Yankees, right, who in all technicality probably do need some sort of middle infield help at minimum. I'm gonna be generous for that right now before we get there in a couple minutes, but um, and they aren't, to be fair, right? They aren't the only one. I frankly kind of think of a team like it's weird. I don't think this would happen without like a big price tag, right? But like I think of a team like Atlanta who's still having a really good year. Obviously, they're still well within this playoff race to be kind of in general. Like they're a team that probably does need some shortstop help, right? So like, what's the price tag going to be like a guy for Lindor? It's still going to be pretty high. I'm guessing the Mets are really kind of banking on that youth movement piece that we've talked about with their own guys. You maybe get prospects that are more closer to being ready to go than maybe what we're used to seeing at the deadline involving Lindor. And I know I've probably trampled over kind of where we would begin to the discussion point anyway with him, but I guess maybe go back to the beginning for you, Kyle, right? Is when you saw that little report get released about listening to Lindor offers. I for me I was a little bit surprised, but I can't say maybe I was all that shocked though.
Yeah, I think I'm just surprised because I mean this guy's under contract for 5 more years, and he's making $32 million a year. Uh, you would expect the asking price to be very, very high because of that. Despite, some of the numbers being down this year, a lot will blame it on injuries and stuff like that. But it's no secret his defense has been really bad. I know you've seen a lot of the clips. Of course, a lot of the world has seen the clips. Just routine plays not being made. But yeah, there's definitely going to be teams that are out there that we're definitely going to call on him. And I think it's going to take a lot because of the contract status that I just mentioned. And I think the Mets are going to have to absorb probably some of the money because $32 million over the next 5 years, plus what they're going to have to give up in the prospect pool. I don't know if a lot of teams would kind of do that. And that's why I also saw a report, I think last night, I forgot who mentioned it, but a trade this winter would probably be more likely than a trade deadline trade. But hey, you never know. There could be a team that's pretty desperate for a middle infielder.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of where I look at like, and like I said, I don't think it would happen just because of, I don't, well, inter division trades certainly do happen. Let's not act as if they don't, right? But like I view a team like Atlanta who to me should be desperate to get a guy like Lindor just for the fact that they do need like the shortstop help and like we do know what the peak of Lindor can be,
Yep.
obviously. And while I do agree with like what you said and what has been discussed about probably this is more of an off-season look than anything else. I think it's I don't know. To me, like if you get obviously the right offer for the Mets, I think you have to jump on it, right? And that's where I think you can have a lot of leverage. Like I'm gonna probably pound this Atlanta thing more than anything else, but like I mean, you can probably maybe obviously not King's ransom this out, right? By any means, but like if a team is desperate enough, you could probably get a really good penny still, all things considered, from sending Lindor out. Um, like you said, it's gonna be tough though. You probably do have to eat some sort of percentage of that contract, right? Like that's just the way it is. And I don't know. Like I'm trying to rifle through too, just like teams really quickly in my head about like, okay, who could use, shortstop help. The Braves come to mind, like I've mentioned. Um, the Yankees come to mind, even though we'll get to them obviously anyway here in a minute. Um, would you put the Blue Jays in there?
Not a bad idea.
So we got them. Um,
I'm trying to look for like some
yeah.
other rumors. I haven't really heard many teams like we know teams are going to be interested, but I haven't heard exact teams that would
Yeah,
be interested. And I don't think I'm not really seeing anything yet. But I mean, we're still 2 weeks out.
right. And that's my thing. Like these teams I'm just thinking of really here on the spot are the ones well within contention who have a very obvious spot to fill should they be the ones to get Lindor in this sense. I don't think Milwaukee and Tampa Bay both fit the same bill where I could see them doing it, but like I think Tampa Bay is going to be too tied up trying to get Scooble, and I don't. That one's a for sure. The Mets are going to have to eat a lot of money there. Um, Here's an
Yeah.
interesting one. Although I don't know. See, I don't know if they do this given how they've been playing overall. But would the White Sox be kind of potentially a spot here?
I mean, maybe. I don't think you can count really too many teams out
Right,
considering shortstop. I mean, to find a shortstop like Lindor is pretty rare. I mean, he just
right.
had a 3 year stretch of one of the best shortstops in the game up until this year.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think a lot of teams will be interested. I did just find an article, of course. This is just, you know, a site putting together some trade
Hmm.
packages. And they do list Toronto as the number one destination.
How
They have
about that?
San Diego as number two, and
Really?
they have San Francisco as number three. Yep.
I
And it's the Rising Apple Mets page blog.
okay, the Giants I don't understand just from the perspective of I mean, unless it's a move they do for next year. But like I don't know about deadline this year. San Diego, I didn't
And they said they would get Willie Adames back in the trade to play third base for the Mets.
oh, that'd be hilarious.
But Adames makes 31 million each in the next 5 years. So basically taking Lindor out and taking
I mean,
on
it's a money swap essentially
yeah,
on that side of things, right? So, hey, who knows, I
oh, wow.
guess.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, again, nothing really over the weekend on this side, but the Clay Holmes thing is interesting because he's beginning his ramp up process again. We talked a little bit about it last week. His name has popped up again. The
White
beauty, the
Sox.
the beauty though, obviously, right, Kyle, about pitchers is every team in contention needs arms anyway. So this isn't going to be, I think, as drawn out. I do think the Mets could get a pretty good penny because of, frankly, the flexibility that Clay Holmes could give you. Right, we've seen him now as a starter. We know about what he can do in the closing high leverage positions. You just I don't know if it fully came through, but you mentioned the White Sox a little bit again there as a possibility. Um, yeah, I think it's one of those ones where it's like he's one of those ones for sure that I could see. Obviously, nothing's technically guaranteed, but like for sure in 2 weeks he's not a Met anymore by any means.
Yeah, and the report was I mean, he is open to an extension, but if he weren't to extend, he was probably going to opt out because he has an opt out, $12 million. And yeah, you just wonder though, because he hasn't officially started the rehab assignment, if teams are gonna, give up too much for him because they don't really know how he's gonna come back from that injury, and you don't want to give up too much for a guy that's gonna probably leave anyway. So, um, he might get traded, but I just wonder how desperate teams will be for him specifically, even though, like you said, he has proved that he can do both a starter and a reliever. And if he can stay healthy, that's a big addition to any team. And I know I said White Sox a few minutes ago.
Mhm.
That's all I've really heard. I think the White Sox seem to love him. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I like we both are saying, right? Arms are always are a commodity, so he'll end up somewhere. Like you said, maybe the pieces you get back or piece you get back might not be fully what you want, but like you're gonna be getting something back because you know it's a premium at the
Always
end of the day.
something. Yep.
Yeah. All right, let's head over to the Yankees side of things here now. Um, okay, I call it kind of speaking out both sides of your mouth here to a degree. I could be wrong. I don't know. I've been wrong more times than I've been right in life. But it's so weird how this kind of operated, I'll say through the weekend, at least from my perspective, Kyle. So the initial jump point I think for all of this was another I don't know if it's necessarily a vote of confidence, but more or less, we aren't looking for a shortstop, is what gets said, right? To me, that's, I think for the average person, they're going to look at it from a vote of confidence for Volpe perspective. I don't see it necessarily that way. We'll get to more of that in a minute. Parlay that with what kind of gets reported yesterday that the Yankees are going to try and use Jasson Dominguez and Spencer Jones as trade chip pieces at the deadline. And I'm going to say to you right now, as I said to you off air before we began, sure, why not? Better late than never, essentially, right? But um, I just feel like we're probably 2 years too late on some of that for them, obviously. Um, just one of those things where, like I said, to me, it just feels like both sides of the mouth are being talked out of. And I could be wrong by that being the actual case, but like I said, like especially on the Spencer Jones side, for me, we can talk more about this here in a second, but like the Jones side of it for me is like you're like 2 or 3 years too late on the Jones front. I think whatever he's got at this point is just what he has. I think Dominguez is the better asset of the two in my mind. I could be wrong, but again, find it interesting giving all things considered, and then obviously the middle infield thing. So I'll let you take whatever point you want to go with first here, Kyle, and we'll dive more in depth.
Yeah, it seems like the Yankees are always willing to move their young guys or their former prospects as soon as they're already exposed to the big leagues and their value drops, and that's the case here. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that, of course, would want either one of them, but in the same sense, they're not going to get back what they were going to get back a couple years ago for them. So it is kind of funny that report came out, and I mean, yeah, they're going to have to trade them if they're going to go ahead and add all these pieces that they do need. But yeah, they're going to have to trade more than just them two with the amount of pieces they do need. And I think personally, I think one of them will be traded. I don't think both are going to be traded. I just think that's how it's going to work. Um, and yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I don't really have too many trade ideas in mind because I just feel like a lot of them are unrealistic. Like Mason Miller, I don't know how deep you want to get into it. Of course, that would be a great addition, but do we really think the Yankees are gonna, beat out all these teams for Mason Miller? I doubt it.
Exactly. I think the name that got brought up again going to the Yankees in a potential deal over the weekend that popped up was Hunter Goodman for Colorado, which is catching, which we have not talked about obviously on this portion of things, just because I don't, again, can't really assume here, but we're both of the agreements that there's going to be some sort of move for catcher anyway at the deadline. So it's, to me, it's not so much this like over the top figure it out thing, but um, yeah, I would assume, like you're saying, I'm guessing that would be a piece that we'll see one of the guys go to would be in a deal, whether it's say for Goodman or take your pick. I know you're the one who brought up, I think, right, like a month or so ago about maybe knocking on Minnesota's door
Yep.
and everything like that. So
And the Yankees
um,
actually had scouts over the weekend watching him and Joe Ryan. Of course, they'll send scouts to watch anyone really, but I do think
right,
it's interesting that Joe Ryan's a name. And I feel like, I don't know how many years ago, but Joe Ryan was like a target for the Yankees back, I can't remember how many years ago. But at the same sense, that shouldn't be the focus. I think they're starting pitching, all things considered, if Max Fried's back, it's pretty damn good. I think you've got to focus on the catcher, relievers, and I really think they got to do something in the middle infield. I really think like Luis Arraez, CJ Abrams, Lindor would be fine too, but
mhm.
I just don't think that's really realistic. But CJ Abrams, I've been hearing his name a lot. I mean, I guess it's possible,
Which,
but
yeah, which is interesting. Not to jump in because the name that I've seen a lot with the Nationals in the middle infield, even though he hasn't played a ton of it this year, has been Luis Garcia as well.
yeah,
Kind of get dropped, but he's played a lot of first this year for the Nationals. Um, it's he appears to be kind of the for sure odd man out there, but again, his primary position though is the second base side of things and not that shortstop piece. that does make me want to circle back though, like I said, because I didn't want to talk about it. Also kind of sprinkled in, if you want to call it that, over towards the end of the All-Star break and into the weekend for the Yankees was the fact that the George Lombard discussion was brought up again. And that's why part of me feels like when that report came out, like we aren't looking for shortstop help, to me read as, like I said, probably for the average fan was like vote of confidence for Volpe. Here we go, Mike. Is that so much a vote of confidence for Volpe or a vote of confidence on having Lombard up at some point here when he's fully healthy again? Because that's the way I read it.
Yeah, and if you really look, Anthony Volpe has not really played that much lately, starting wise. Jose Caballero has been in the lineup a lot more, and I mean his bat has disappeared, and it's very glaring too how cold he's gotten. But yeah, I've seen a lot on Lombard. I've heard Boone say that it's pretty possible that that'll be up, and I think at this point, you give him a little bit more time in the minors, but you give him a shot. I think that's what the Yankees have done. A lot the last, handful of years. They're so scared to give their young guys shots, and then it's kind of like too late, and it's like, man, they should have done this a while ago. Um, and I think that's the move you have to do. I just don't think what they have right now is just something that's good enough. I really don't think they're good enough in the middle infield. Jazz, he's had some timely big home runs, but he is nothing like himself in a contract year. And to be honest, I know this isn't going to happen, and I know a lot of fans are calling for it too. I would be so glad to trade Jazz at the deadline, but I know it's not going to happen. And plug in a guy like Luis Arraez. You need a contact hitter at the top of the lineup to get on base for the guys behind you, like Rice, Judge when he's
Mhm.
back. But yeah, I know Jazz getting traded won't happen, but I'm just saying it'd be great if he did.
So I'm probably the bigger Jazz defender of the two of us, and I don't want to make it sound like I am defending him because I want to pose this question to you. But can the Yankees afford to even trade Jazz right now, given the potential of his bat and kind of what? Now, mind you, look, it's baseball. It's a game of streaks, but like I feel like I'd rather have that potential swing there at the moment still. If especially like you mentioned off the top, right? Like the Judge thing has gotten murkier, the Stanton thing has gotten murkier. I don't know, man. It's one of those double-edged sword scenarios I feel like involving that.
I think the dream middle infield right now, and I'm in agreement with a lot of fans I see online, of course. Um, Lombard at short, Luis Arraez at second, Ben Rice at first, and of course McMahon will stay at third, and he can platoon with Caballero at third. Um, and then like say they get like a Ryan Jeffers or of course the guy from Colorado to play catcher. It just looks like a totally different team, and you feel like you got more contact. With the middle infield there, you got a catcher that's actually going to give you a quality at bat, right-handed too. I mean, once they haven't had a right-handed catcher since Jose Trevino. Um, it just looks like a whole different team. And then if they somehow do get Judge back, um, Grisham has his hot streaks. I don't know. It just feels like, again, that's why I'm saying the team now is not going to be the team in October, even if they don't get at Luis Arraez and Jazz or to still be at second. George Lombard Jr. just feels different. A new catcher just feels different. So yeah, I'm excited to see how it plays out, and I just know that like they can't be scared to trade some of these guys. They have to trade these guys, or else they're going to be nowhere near a World Series.
And like you mentioned, looking differently too. I know you mentioned the starting pitching thing a while ago, but like also Clark Schmidt, mind you, this is a huge ramp up. And if you are going to make a move for a starting pitcher, I don't think you can necessarily do the weight thing with him, but he's starting to throw again here a little bit. Very, very minute.
And yeah, simulated game actually coming up. He threw actually no, he threw it over the weekend. He had a one inning simulated game on Saturday.
Yeah, they said
Um,
15 pitches, I think, right?
yep. And I think he's more of a bullpen arm in the play come the playoff time, September, October. And I think Ryan Weathers will eventually go to the bullpen. But yeah, they still have a lot of work for the bullpen. I mean, I just some of the guys in there right now, I cannot believe they continue to call up Jake Bird. I know he's optioned again, but the guy can't be back in this bullpen this year. He's horrible. Again, shout out to Brent Hedrick, David Bednar. They've been literally
Hmm.
the two best relievers right now. Um, but yeah, I mean, I would love Mason Miller, but as I said earlier, I just don't think they'll outbid teams for him.
No, I think it's, I don't want to say unrealistic again because, right, anything is technically possible, but also too, speaking of both sides of your mouth, like here are the Padres again, willing to buy on something, but also selling at the same time. So like, who the hell knows with them
Yeah.
what they even like? They might be doing the Miller thing just as a, I don't want to say distraction, right? But just a throw off the scent thing. And I think, look, I love Miller. He is one of the best talents in baseball right now. But I think bang for your buck, like you're saying, Kyle, I think you can find something more attainable out there than him.
Yeah. My worry is just the team will offer more. The Yankees will be in on them, of course, like they are with all of their players, but there'll be a team out there that's more desperate, and you just hope it's not a team in the AL because the AL right now is weak. It looks like, despite all the stuff that's happened, and when the Yankees are healthy, on paper they're considered the best team in the AL, but if one of these teams in the AL has a big trade deadline and outbids the Yankees for some of these guys, it's going to be disappointing because it seems like this happens too often. And I mean, I don't know if you're going to talk about it, but you look at the Red Sox right now, what they're doing.
Hmm.
I mean, they're right on the heels of the Yankees. So all of a sudden, it's kind of turned into a three-team race there in the American League. And don't look now, the Orioles have won 7 in a row, and they square off
Hmm.
with the Red Sox tonight. So. Yeah, I mean, I really think this is a huge trade deadline. Of course, we say this a lot, but this year just seems different because, you know, the reports that we're getting, like it seems like, oh yeah, now they're willing to trade guys, they're willing to call up guys. Maybe Lombard comes up earlier than we would have ever seen before. So, I'm excited. I just hope we don't get disappointed again.
I hear you there. So yeah, the Yankees got the Pirates to begin the week this week, then head over to Philadelphia after an off day on Thursday. My phone is taking forever to load because, of course, it would in the moment that I need it to. Um, the Mets, as we mentioned, got the Brewers to start the week this week, and then another off day on Thursday before returning home against the Dodgers over the weekend. So some good baseball here coming up, hopefully across the board here for the Yankees. So, like you mentioned though, Kyle, the big important thing here, I think for both teams, if you look at it from off the field, is the trade deadline looming here in 2 weeks. Who knows what we might properly do for that? All I know is next week we'll be having a normal edition of the podcast of sorts. So we'll get out here on that note. Appreciate everybody for listening and tuning in this week and find Concrete Jungle here on fingerlakes1.com, the FON YouTube channel. The audio only version of the podcast is available on all major podcast platforms. Enjoy the week, everybody. We'll talk again next Monday.